It's something we all live with, the threat of a parking ticket, but not everyone is paying their tickets, and you won't believe how much money isn't being collected. I've got investigative reporter and anchor with me, Anna Harris. She has dug through all of the data to get us all caught up on this topic. Anna, first off, how did you get sucked into this topic of unpaid parking tickets? And just how much money are we talking about here?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show for the first time. So basically how this started is that parking tickets is something that everyone feels like complains about here around the Low Country.
Oh, yeah.
And several months ago, I'd interviewed an attorney who's actually in this story today, named Roy Willie. And on behalf of the Anastapula law firm, they filed a lawsuit against a third-party service called PCI Municipal Services, the city of Folly Beach and the Isle of Palms, for distributing what he calls pretty much an excess amount of tickets. This third-party service that issues these tickets on Folly and the Isle of Palms makes a certain amount of percentage off of each ticket. They are claiming that PCI was writing more tickets than they were necessary just so they could make the extra profit. They ended up having an attorney general's opinion with their lawsuit, which deemed that it was illegal for a third party to issue police powers. Following that lawsuit, it was honestly kind of out of curiosity of, well, how many parking tickets are going unpaid and how many parking tickets are really being issued as a whole. So I filed for a Freedom of Information Act request to Folly Beach, Isle of Palms, Edisto Island, Sullivan's Island, and the city of Charleston, because those are the main places that people complain about parking, and just to see what it was going to be like.
Yeah, and basically that lawsuit opened up the floodgates, and you decided to see just how many tickets were being written and then how many of them weren't being paid. Just sum it up for me, though. Like, how much money are we talking about here?
Millions. It was a lot more than I had anticipated. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked at a couple 100,000, but in just the city of Charleston alone, there's over $3 million that's going unpaid. Yeah. And that's a lot of money.
All right, well, let's take a look at the story that you did explaining this whole issue, and I think we'll be surprised by all of the other numbers that you've reported on.
From finding a spot to paying the meter or using an app. The struggle of parking across the city of Charleston and Low Country beaches are a tale as old as time.
It's been terrible.
It can be difficult, especially during the summer months.
There's just more people. Parking is, harder to accomplish.
And if you park in an unmarked spot or you don't pay your meter, you could risk getting a pretty piece of paper on your windshield. And in downtown Charleston and the nearby beaches, there are still millions of dollars in tickets unaccounted for.
Since the start of 2023 through the beginning of this summer, the city of Charleston has racked up just over $3 million worth of unpaid parking tickets. That's about 34% of the 69,500 tickets they handed out during this time period.
Does that number shock you at all?
It does, because of the amount of people that, for whatever reason, refuse to pay for citations. They don't see the seriousness of it.
To compare, just under 20,000 tickets were handed out by third-party vendor PCI Municipal Services on Folly Beach. 37.5% of those have not been paid. That is just over $400,000. The Isle of Palms also uses PCI, which handed out just over 10,000 tickets, totaling about $1 million on the island from last January through this July. About 36% were not paid.
That's a lot of money hanging around for sure.
And just last year alone, they handed out about $770,000 worth of tickets. But this year,
through July 21st, which is the data that they sent you, they only wrote $217,000 worth of parking tickets. That's like less than a third. And we are at that point more than halfway through the year. So, those numbers certainly stand out.
This decrease coincides with a legal effort to prevent PCI from issuing parking tickets on behalf of municipalities like Folly and IOP. Sullivan's Island, who uses third-party vendor T2 Solutions, has about 26% of tickets unpaid over the past 2.5 years, totaling just under $102,000. Those who park on Edisto Island, however, get their tickets from the police department.
The island has the highest number of paid tickets with only 21% unpaid. This is equal to around $19,000.
I think parking tickets one of those unfortunate expenses that some people just don't feel like they can pay and are willing to take the risk of whatever penalties.
No, I feel like that makes sense. I think people are looking to pay things late, possibly, or never pay at all.
The City of Charleston's Parking Services Director, Tyrone Lawrence, says they used to average about 16,000 tickets a month back in 2018. Now they average about 12,000 a month. He says that's because more people are following the rules. But for those who don't,
Of course, we sent a letter, a friendly reminder that it's an unpaid parking citation, but also at some point that fine goes to a debt collector. So now a debt collector will contact you via phone, mail, letting you know the seriousness of paying for these citations.
and now the city is looking forward to installing a mobile license plate recognition system in the next month that will better help catch violators in the act.
And basically what that's going to do is it's a camera system that's mounted in a vehicle, and it goes around and it reads the license plates. And it'll chalk the vehicle, meaning document the vehicle, and it'll be able to tell the officer just how long the vehicle has been there when they come back through.
In the city of Charleston, there have been nearly 31,000 meter violations from January 2023 to the end of this May. It's also the #1 reason why people get ticketed, according to their parking data. The next biggest reasons are parking in prohibited or residential zones.
People should pay the government what they are owed, because that's how we keep places like Sullivan's working and clean and functioning well.
We will always want folks to abide by the parking rules and regulations, and always make a concerted effort to, park legally where it's not unsafe or inconvenience for others.
The voters have to hold the jurisdictions accountable. If they feel like the job that the town is doing on collecting on parking tickets is insufficient, the way to solve that is at the ballot box. If any of us went to work and were doing good, honest, true work, and we were only receiving half to 2/3 of the money that we deserved as a result of that, it seems to me we would probably do something about it if we thought we truly deserved it.
Willie says if you have received a ticket from PCI on folly or IOP, you can contact his office to be a part of the class action. He says one day you may just get your money back.
All right, Anna, let's start with why can't these municipal governments make these collections? How is it that people are not paying their fines?
Well, a lot of it is probably because people don't understand how serious it can really be.
Sure.
For the city of Charleston specifically, I know that they hand out a letter after 30 days saying, hey, you owe this. You're already going to get a late fee because it's been 30 days. And once it gets to another, I believe it's 60 days or 45 for maybe some cities, they send another notice saying, hey, you still owe this. This is how much money you're now going to owe. And once that 60 days goes past, for the city of Charleston, it goes to debt collections. So if it starts to collect debt, that could eventually end up affecting your credit. And I think if maybe you've had a $14 ticket, think it's nothing. Eventually $14 can become a lot more over time. And especially if you're collecting multiple tickets over the course of years,
right.
You could owe hundreds, even thousands of dollars. But as far as why they're not being able to collect it, it's just up to people's own decisions. Because
Sure.
a lot of these places are providing notices and they are providing those late fees, but it is up to that person to actually pay the money.
But at the end of the day, debt collection, city police, for example, their jurisdiction ends at the city or the county or the state line, for example. And if these tickets are going to tourists who are here for a weekend, it's hard for these municipalities to collect on these parking violations, right?
Right. I mean, there were still so many when looking. I was able to see for City of Charleston where a list of all of the parking violations. For all the other cities, I don't have that breakdown.
Right.
But there's still so many South Carolina license plates. And then there's so many that are from out of state. And honestly, if you are traveling somewhere, you might even forget that you even got a parking ticket, especially if I travel to North Carolina, get a parking ticket there. If I'm not keeping track of it, I need to be getting notices, which these cities are providing.
Sure.
But yeah, it really is up to the person at the end of the day, because none of these people can it's not like you have a warrant out for your arrest. It's
Right.
not like someone can show up and bang on
it's
your
a
door.
city violation.
Correct.
It's not a criminal violation.
Correct.
But and I also just wonder, if you're a tourist here, perhaps the city doesn't have access to the same databases to find the people that.
Right.
I mean, you can put in on the ticket all of the information, but if you can't access that license plate, the data associated with that license plate because they're from Ohio or something, it's hard to send them a bill, right?
Right.
So we're talking millions of dollars over the last 2.5 years. I think it was somewhere in the 3 million range. What could that money in Charleston be going towards?
So for Charleston specifically, I know that it goes to parking related operating expenses.
Sure.
I don't know all the details of what that exactly covers. I'm assuming it covers if they want to make more parking spaces maybe, or maybe it's salaries for people that are handing out these tickets. I'm not exactly sure, but I was told it's parking related operating expenses. It also helps offset the general fund deficits. So if they've got issues within their general fund budget, then paying more of your ticket can help cover that. And the general fund covers everything. Basically. And it makes the city literally go around. For Edisto Island, it also goes to their general fund budget, but specifically towards the public safety department. So any updates that go along with that, salary expenses, it helps cover those. I'm not exactly sure just because I didn't get clarification by the time the story ran from all the other places. But I'm learning that a lot of the time it goes towards the general fund budget, which can cover,
which powers everything,
which powers literally everything that the city does.
All right. Well, you mentioned in the story that there has been a decrease in tickets being issued, especially with that lawsuit with PCI. Can you talk to me about where we are with that PCI lawsuit? But first, just and you mentioned at the very beginning, but this is that lawsuit that basically says private companies can't issue or shouldn't be able to issue tickets on behalf of a government. Where are we in that lawsuit?
So there's not a ton of update from the time a couple months ago. I believe it was around February time was when it all started. I know that Folly, at least, if not IOP as well, is looking at their parking ordinances and they're trying to refurbish those. Does that mean they're fully going to get rid of the third-party service? Unclear at this time, but it's something that we're continuing to follow. I know other reporters are as well, just to see what ends up happening, because that AG's opinion does speak a lot of volumes in terms of what can be done. Because they're also, PCI is not the only third party that's being used in the state either. I mean, T2 Solutions is what Sullivan's Island uses. I don't know how much of a percentage that they collect, but they have to be collecting something. So if they think that about PCI, they definitely think about T2 and all these other third parties as well. So as far as the lawsuit itself, I know that people are being asked to contact the Anastapula law firm if they've received a ticket from PCI within the last several years. I believe since at least like 2023 or so. If you're not sure if PCI was the one that handed out your ticket, you're also able to file a Freedom of Information Act request to either Folly or IOP, saying when you got your ticket, the date that it was issued, your personal information. They should be able to tell you when you or who issued your ticket. From then, you can contact the Anastapula law firm and say, I want to be part of the class action, because then one day you might be able to get your money back.
Sure.
But there's no timeline at this point of when that could happen.
Well, and the third-party system is really an effort by some of these smaller governments to not have to have effectively meter maids, right? Or take police off of their routes to hand out tickets to people parked illegally. I mean, it's a cost-saving measure from some of these smaller municipalities. Is that correct? I mean, that's why they did it.
Right. I mean, and it makes total logical sense to me to be like, look, the police need to be focused on someone breaking in someone's house versus somebody parking on the wrong side of the street.
Public safety.
For public safety stuff. And some parking situations could be public safety. If you're parking in the middle of the road, you might cause a bunch of accidents to happen because you're parked incorrectly. So it makes total logical sense. But I do want to note that for Edisto, they have all of their tickets issued by their police department, and they have the most amount of paid tickets out of everybody, which I understand.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, if you attribute it to anything.
I mean, it could be, Edisto population-wise is a lot smaller than Charleston, so it's hard to compare for that. But it's also, if I get a ticket from the police, I might take that a lot more seriously than saying, what's this random company giving me a ticket? I don't care.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just thinking
interesting.
of the mindset of an individual of like, oh, shoot, this is something I owe the law enforcement or owe the government. Like, I need to actually deal with it. So it could be a mindset thing. It also just could be that Edisto has a lot less people and they have a lot less people to worry about.
Yeah, and they probably, I mean, they get a lot of tourists, but they
Right.
also probably have fewer tourists than Charleston and the Barrier Islands around Charleston.
For sure.
Talk to me about what happens next. You did mention at the end of your story that there is some efforts to change some things, especially in Charleston. Again, we focus on Charleston because it has the largest, well, it has the most parking spaces and it has the largest amount of tickets that go uncollected. And there are some efforts to sort of enhance collection, or perhaps maybe it's just enforcement side of things. But is there any effort moving forward to try and bring down that number of unpaid tickets?
So I know for City of Charleston, the parking services director did say that they didn't used to have tickets go to debt collection. So that's been an effort that's made in the last couple of years. At least it happened before, I think since at least like 2018. So I don't know how it's been in comparison to prior to 2018. But something else that they are trying to implement within the next month is this mobile license plate recognition system. So this is actually pretty cool. It's a system that goes in one of these parking services employees' cars that you drive around any street around the city of Charleston. It goes boop, 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 looks at all these license plates down a stretch, and it notifies on that system how long that car has been parked there, or maybe that person has been parked there a while. They also have like 3 outstanding tickets, and it tells you everything pretty much you need to know about where that person stands. And if you think it's easy now to get a ticket in Charleston, I think this will be even easier, because if it's not a person physically walking around, a car moves a lot quicker. It notifies a lot faster than one person would. So in about a month, they're planning to install this, give it like a 6-month trial, see if it's worth it. I believe a system like this is about $50,000. So see if that works. If it's successful, they do want to implement more of those.
And I imagine that that's going to make it faster for them to identify habitual offenders and take more action. Perhaps they boot or they use the clam system.
The barnacles.
The barnacle system, that's what it is, that goes on the windshield to prevent people from moving until they pay their tickets. That certainly helps with enforcement, and maybe it'll help with collection as well. I think maybe they should put a little like shark fin on the top of one of those cars.
They should.
So you can see it coming.
They should. I know. It'll be interesting to see it ride around. So hopefully we'll get an inside look into how that works.
Yeah, maybe we'll get a ride along.
I know. I would love to do that.
All right. Well, we'll wait for that piece to come out once you get that ride along. All right, Anna, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.